Good morning. How's everyone doing today? I'm sorry it took me so long to get this video uploaded. I've been dealing with a cold for the last few days, so just hope you can bear with me, and I hope I don't sound too groggy. So I know last week I spoke broadly on the idea of westward expansion for my preferred field, and I know this week we were asked to kind of narrow that focus and look to other sources for narrowing that focus. So we were just looking at journal articles regarding our topic. So I just wanted to talk today on the financial and relatively violent toll it took on the United States in the first part of the 19th century in terms of expanding mostly into the Louisiana Territory from 1803 onward. So I know in the short time frame, the United States nearly doubled from its original size. They had just purchased the Louisiana Territory from the French for about $15 million, which was authorized by Congress and Thomas Jefferson. It's a really sizable purchase, but when one looks at the sheer size of the amount of territory it was gained, they'd see that it was definitely a worthwhile investment. This investment helped see a flourishing of migration into the United States. It's estimated that about 16 million people came to the United States in the 1800s. So a lot of people just saw that this expansion into new land was definitely like a chance for a new opportunity. So a lot of people saw they could get their fresh start by coming out here, and a lot of them did move out west as they arrived. Not a lot of Americans lived out west in the first part of the 19th century. They say approximately 7% of people even lived out west in 1800, but with the flourishing of migration into the country, it's estimated that about 60% of people were living out west by the start of 1900. And these stats are all from the International Economic Review 2008, the month of February. So this growth in population had everything to do with the Louisiana Purchase and that initial burst of expansion. But as we talked about last week too, no territorial gains came without opposition. As Americans moved into the Louisiana Territory, there was a growing number of Native Americans standing in the way of settlers, and a lot of people had issue with that. That's something that's been an issue pretty much since the start of this whole thing. There were a growing number of Native American tribes, and so as Americans moved, they needed the Native Americans to move, assimilate, or oftentimes they would fight, and you'd see a lot of conflict arise out of this. But for white settlers, Native Americans had always been an issue, and that had not changed in the first half of the 19th century. The Indian was still a multifaceted problem to the Anglos, and this is according to the November 1984 issue of Southeastern Geographer. The public in general wanted them gone, so when they came knocking, the Indians only had a couple of options. So as I begin to wrap this up, I want to thank you all for bearing with me. I did have a lot of trouble finding sources of scholarly journal articles. It was a lot more difficult than I thought, so either I'm just not looking in the right spot. So the quest for American expansion is of the utmost importance to our story. And I encourage you guys, if you have some free time this week, to just look it up, do some reading on it. Maybe you're not familiar with it. Maybe it's an area that you really enjoy reading about. So I would love to hear what you guys find. I'd love to see what you guys can come up with. So, if you want to do that, and just send me an email and we can talk about it. I would love to hear from you. So, I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to hearing back from y'all.